want to welcome everyone. My name is Danilda Martinez. I'm a producer and editor, and I also do the outreach and programs for GALSNGEAR. And I am hosting today's Tequity Tuesday, which is on AI for creatives. So either embrace it or hurry up and run away. We have some wonderful people here that are going to be leading us in the conversation and just sharing their insight. And I'd love to introduce them. First, we have Mandy Celine joining us. Say hi, Mandy.
Hiya.
Mandy's joining us from London. She's a director and DP, and she works out of, and she's also a post-production trainer. We also have Seth Polanski, who is joining us from Washington, D.C.
Silver Spring, Maryland, right outside the district.
Silver Spring, Maryland. And Seth is a IP and intellectual property lawyer and a independent film producer. So I am excited to just spend this time with you guys and talk about this incredible new thing, which is not so new, but it's new to many of us, and get started in a second. Before I do that, I want to go ahead and thank our wonderful sponsors. You'll see their logos in our Tequity HUB throughout the space that you can explore, different sponsors for different areas. And I specifically want to shout out NBCU Academy, because they are providing really incredible resources to the community. They have free journalism courses for those who want to kind of flex their skills in content creation with a journalistic background. So you can check them out in our upskilling hub section. I also want to thank Wall Street Communication, because you guys offer some incredible things to us, including our pro bono PR services and Dundee Hills Group, who designed the space that we're in. Okay. We'll do the walkthrough of the Tequity Tuesday space, the Tequity Hub space. Ashley, are you able to share your screen and give us a quick tour? Ashley might be having some technical difficulties, so I will go ahead and show you the space. Let me share my screen with you guys. Awesome. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So let me briefly show you what this is. So this is our GALSNGEAR Tequity HUB. When you come in, you're in the map view area, which is my favorite way of seeing this. The space is where we congregate. The space is where we do community, and where we also kind of spend some time learning from industry experts like our guests today. And as I was saying, this is a space that is available to us at any time. Once you come in, you can join the main stage panel to see our speakers at different events. If you ever need help, you go ahead and you click here, and you'll pop up to a live space where you can have some direction on where to go. You'll see our sponsors for all the different areas, our wonderful sponsors, and the other areas where you can network and meet people when you're here during an event. This is the skill zone. I'd love to highlight this. This is where you can go. We've kind of aggregated our sponsors and our partners content over here that they share with us for all kinds of things where you want to upskill and learn skills specific to their brand and specific to their products, and also a job board with our partners that specifically work with our community. And so here you can find a variety of things that if you want to upskill and then find a job, this is where you want to come. Do you want to hang out with people? You want to come over here. And if you want to kind of see what we're doing at different events, these are the things that will happen. And so what happens is, as you came on today, you'll click on one of these, a Zoom window will pop up, and then you'll be able to kind of join the conversation there. Also, I want to point out that on the side over here is another way that you can reach these spaces, and you can kind of meet at your leisure at your own time, and then see, if your colleagues or friends are here or someone that you want to speak to privately, you can go ahead and do that. I want to highlight also our screening room. Actually, I don't actually want to go to it. I just want to show it to you, but I can launch it if I wanted to, where we feature and we show the work of our community. So if you have something, a trailer or something coming up, or a program that you've already cut and you want to share, we'd be happy to showcase, and you can come and see what our community is doing here. What else? Meet the speakers, show it, skill zone, all of that. That is our Tequity HUB, and I am super excited that you guys are here. Now, shall we continue? Because I know that you guys are eager to talk about this topic. Cool with everybody? Here we go. Mm-hmm. All right. Seth, I'm going to start. Actually, I'll let you guys pick however you want to go. So let's start with just common practice right now, what you guys are doing. How are you currently using AI or generative AI enabled tools during your creative process as filmmakers?
I'm happy to go first.
Go
You
ahead,
should go
Megan.
first because my answer is going to be I don't, and here's how I warn my clients about it.
Looks like
Yeah,
you
there's
started.
so like I would say I'm like currently a small-time director. Like I haven't like I want to make a show. I want to like, you know, like every director, I'm sure. So like I have a pilot out for pitch, and like I used it to help with imagery there, but I made sure I changed it and like evolved it because I'm also I made sure I didn't use ones that based themselves on other models as well that like just scrape the internet. Um, I personally like used like Firefly, and then I photoshopped it to try and get what I want. I will say each image I did 6 in my pitch deck. That still took me like 6 hours to do. It didn't like speed up the process. I just don't know how to paint. So I got like the paintings and then I can change it from there. So I use it in that way. And other ones are like just basic features built into my editing softwares when I am editing, because I do run a post-production house and I still do some editing, although the plan is to like eventually leave it behind. Like I want to be a director. But like they have like remix tools is all like that's an AI software that helps you build the song shorter or longer depending on what you want. The transcription tools, I like things that help my workflow but don't erase someone else's fully. That's kind of like my vibe of how I use it.
That's so important. I love that you said that you're using it as part of your workflow. So you're both embracing it and testing it. It sounds like, is that accurate?
Definitely.
I'd love for you at some point to share, if possible, any links on things that you're using.
A lot of the stuff is built in within Premiere, honestly.
Oh, you're speaking. So, yes, like, I know. Yeah, you talked about the Premiere stuff, but anything else as we go along that you think about, just share with me, and I'll share it to the community as well, because everyone wants to figure this out, right?
Oh, and yeah, so totally.
And so Seth, with that, I know you're both a filmmaker and an attorney who represents us. So
half of my client base are creatives and the other half are tech companies because it's DC land of tech startups and government contractors, right? So the first thing I'm going to say about how I warn my clients about this is to speak to something Mandy mentioned. If you are using this for storyboarding, you have given whatever AI company is doing that storyboarding for you that IP as well. So you know they own that IP as well as you do. So if you're using it for things, if you're storyboarding your entire movie beginning to end, you have just given OpenAI the entire plot of your movie beginning to end.
But Seth, it's mine.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, man, everything is made better by cats on screen. Everything. Like
he's never done this before.
The last documentary
we know you're not an AI.
Yeah, the last documentary my wife and I did, every time a pet showed up on screen with the person we were interviewing, we left it in and people loved it.
Yeah.
Just leave the pets in.
It's Ticky's world. We just live in it.
Ticky.
Right. What else should I say?
So you're warning us about IP, about ownership, basically, even at the start of a process.
And the other thing that I really want to warn you guys about, and it goes to both my tech clients and my creative clients, is that in your contracts with your client, you probably have some clauses that say things like, if this is work for hire and the client's going to own all intellectual property in the deliverable, if you're using an AI for a lot of that, you can't actually give them what your contract requires because you can't own that intellectual property outright because the AI service owns a piece of it. So, I don't want you guys to be in functionally breach of contract by using this AI stuff in your work.
It almost sounds sad. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say, if you use it to help you write your scripts, good luck, because then you've just given your script to the company. Yeah.
I like for treatments or decks or pre-production where it's just like a guide. It's not getting lots and lots of information. Yeah. I generally don't like sharing my data, or I won't put my phone number and things if I ask for it.
I keep trying to find workarounds too.
You were going to ask me a question, Danilda. What did I interrupted you.
I think I just wanted to kind of follow up with that. You're warning us about not using it. So what would be that balance that creatives can strike in between being cautious and actually staying relevant and upskilling?
So what I'm doing for my clients now is, in your contracts with your clients, you need to put things like, you're getting the cost and the price you're getting and the time frame you're getting because I'm using these AI tools that make my life easier and simpler and make this quicker. However, you have to understand and this is all in legalese, it'll be a paragraph in your contract, but the client has to
Yeah, because
say,
I've
I
never seen a
understand.
contract that simply understood.
Yeah. So the clause will say something like, you understand that I'm using AI tools, and you release me from my obligation to indemnify you, because I can't guarantee it's not going to hallucinate and give me somebody else's IP, or it's not going to give me, a beloved character in India or China that I know nothing about, and it's going to create an exact copy of that that's going to expose you to liability, or, any of these myriad of things that it can do. And the client's going to have to say, I understand that you're using AI, and I release you from that. So you put it as a clause in your contract.
Put a clause in your contract, or hire Seth.
Well, and the flip side of that is the other thing you need to add is, my deliverable cannot be used to further train an AI database. You don't want your voiceover actors, you don't want the stuff you created to be used to create a database to put you out of business.
Right. You're educating the language models, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
So you're saying we should take it a step further and ensure that we're not just protecting our work, but protecting basically ourselves from training.
And remember what I mentioned before we started about Scarlett Johansson. So this was yesterday. Just yesterday, Scarlett Johansson,
because we were really excited about that.
Yeah. Scarlett Johansson brought suit against OpenAI for infringement. They were in negotiations, Sam Altman and Scarlett Johansson, for like a year, and the negotiations fell apart to have the new voice of ChatGPT be her voice from the movie Her. And those negotiations fell apart. And lo and behold, the new version comes out, and it sounds just like Scarlett Johansson. So she is righteously perturbed about all of that. And of course, OpenAI's comment is, oh no, we use 5 different women. It's an amalgamation of their voices, but it sounds just like Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. I know Meta has one happening right now where they've bought celebrities for the rights for 2 years. So there's one called Billy that's just Kendall Jenner. And she's a content creator for on Instagram and Facebook Meta, and you can ask her questions, and it's weird.
It's almost I'm glad you said that, Mandy, because it's almost like a whole different way of looking at AI and the the content that we create. So we're used to, as creators, putting things in a frame and saying, here's the story, but it's almost like we have to take a step back and start considering ourselves as the content. So it's not just our voice, it's our image, it's our likeness, and start packaging that, right?
Yeah, I feel like there'll be contracts later with actors that will be like, hey, as part of the marketing, that you exist now as a chatbot that people are going to talk to, or I think that kind of thing will happen.
It already is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So quick question. I want to bring it back to our current state of content creation before we continue to go into this crazy, amazing conversation about what it could be. What are some of the tools, Mandy, this question is for you. As a trainer, what are some of the tools that you find are resonating most with your audiences in classrooms or in training sessions?
That makes their life easier. Now, the bad thing is I feel like this is actually going to kill a lot of junior editors market. Sorry. It's okay. Never does it before. Will not stop. Don't want to
put them in the credits.
He must be you're paying too much attention to the screen. So, but I feel like it's going to clear off a lot of junior editors' jobs, the entry-level jobs that used to be how you train someone to get better. Now they're just going to have to learn another way, or by, I don't know, content creation, or doing in some other way, or taking stuff off an editor. You're not because there will come a time where you'll be able to be this is the script, put the clips in the correct order, or we'll pick your best selects, and I bet you that will happen in the next 10 years. I would not be surprised. But for me, tools I love using are the ones that make my workflow quicker, but not because they've changed anything, but it's things that help with metadata, or when I'm searching a word, that's an AI feature, is being able to search what someone says on an edit. Love that when I've been oh, I need to cut this clip. Where is this one weird word they said? Found it. I look forward to things that will be more effective, I would say, for smaller end people, videographers beginning that make content or digital stuff, not branded, not TVCs and things like that, where you'll be able to be you're doing the coloring yourself, you can't afford a colorist, and you write, make this face brighter, and it will figure that out instead of you learning how to mask. And that will save
in
hours
some
of
ways
you not masking.
That's almost like the catch-22, right? The very thing that is helping the smaller agencies, the smaller shops, and or the newer earlier career folks. That's the very thing that's helping them kind of compete with the bigger players, right? So it's, you know, if I would say there is some good news in this, Seth, you can correct me here if I'm wrong. Some good news is that we have to kind of learn this new skill, embrace it as post-production content creators, as storytellers in general. And so I guess what I'm saying is, on the surface here, we have this amazing thing that now, you know, I have a 2-person shop, I have a producer, and I have a post person, and I'm able to compete with, you know, the agency down the road that's got, you know, 300 people. How do I do that? Oh, AI. Great.
And I think that stuff's great. But I also think with films, you're not going to get to a point where someone's like, oh no, Gen AI, they're doing all the like special effects work on a thing. I was like, I do not think that's going to be just AI in any given point soon, but it might be a first
But I do
pass.
think it's going to be, I do think what it's going to be is, instead of 15 people working in your FX shop, it's going to be 1 person working in your FX shop.
Yeah,
that sends chills up our spine, though.
Yeah, from a capitalist point of view, right? The entire point of generative AI is to capture revenue that would be going to employees. That's the reason capitalist companies have made this product, right? They haven't done it out of the goodness of their heart. They haven't put $20 billion of capital into these things to make life better for everyone. They're making life better for themselves. So, you know, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be amazing and the end all be all. It just needs to be good enough to replace 70% of the labor.
I feel like when you get to like writing and storytelling, though, it's still not going to be great, because like I watched
hope
something
so.
recently.
I hope it fails and falls flat on its face.
We have a debate here going on. I love it.
Well, like, no, I watched something recently on Netflix with Lindsay Lohan that I swear must have been written by mostly AI, because when I watched it, I was like, this is gibberish. It has to be.
Oh, actually, I had one other thing. I actually do. So not only do I do the attorney thing, I do the creative thing. So I do all the location and post sound on our documentaries.
Okay.
It hurts my soul to use this plugin, but and I don't get paid anything for it, but it's called Supertone Clear. It has 1 button on it. 2 buttons, sorry, noise and reverb. And I literally turn the button and it turns down the room reverb in my audio.
Nice.
We've been
I love that.
like, do you have any idea how hard it is to take reverb out of something? And right. And
yes,
it's voodoo. I turn down the reverb, I turn down the noise, and that's it. Right. But
that's
so
exactly my point. Tools that make things easier.
But the point is, we've just put 1,000 mix engineers out of work. Because you don't have to use those people anymore. You literally just run it through this plugin and it's that good, right? I mean, you have to have an ear to make sure you're not introducing artifacts, but still, right? So that is an example of, you know, it makes everything easier, but it also is going to replace a lot of labor.
I feel like those jobs will move, like, so like you've lost your mix engineer, but maybe they go into more sound tracking, or like something else.
What about the people who are already in sound tracking?
Yeah,
you guys are right. There is such a shift happening, right? That's the key about this whole transition, that I believe that is really important for us as creatives and technical folk to actually hang on to. The fact that we've been here before, right? We were here when analog went to digital, when film went to digital. And I remember that an article in a Post magazine or something, or a cinematographer, and it's like, Ari produced its last film camera, and I'm like, oh, this is really the end. That's it. It's over. What are we gonna do? And look, it's like however many years later, here we are. We're still here. And the thing is that we evolve as well, and it may not look the way that we wanted it to look or the way that we intended it, but seldom things do in the future, right? I mean,
and I think those new jobs that will be created from it as well. So like the same thing that happened from analog to digital. Like the thing is, we don't know what they look like yet.
Except this is exponential. I won't.
Yeah, well, I also think that's not the best analogy, and I'm not just picking on you.
You can pick on me. Go ahead. I won't be offended.
It's not like the shift from analog to digital, because everyone, you know what I mean? The entire industry, the people who are doing it, were also the people who are doing the digital. With this, we're just replacing people outright, right? We're not saying this is a new technology that you have to learn. We're saying no, this technology is just going to do your job.
Mm.
Right.
Way
It's
to
a very
go.
different thing than it was.
Yeah,
with,
you're right. It is a lot more nuanced than that simple kind of a swap. But then what does it mean? Do we play around with different roles in companies? Are we going from content creators to AI managers? Or are we going from are we stopping the practice of creating pure content and learning the practice of training AI so that it gives me what I want? And I think that's something to really be considered.
With my fine artist clients, my clients who do, they do board game covers, they do Magic the Gathering cards, they do, illustration work, right?
Yeah.
They're having trouble finding work right now.
Yeah.
Right. Because people are just using this thing. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm the prophet of doom. I wish I had an answer saying, here's how we protect our work. But the key thing I wanted to mention in this regard is that what AI is doing is turning people into art directors. You're not the artist anymore. You're the art director. You're saying, all right, I want this more purple. I want this to be bigger. And AI is not good enough to do that right now. It is so incredibly difficult to make minor changes in a picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. You might as well hire an artist to spend 6 hours, because the prompt engineer is going to take 6 hours to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's still
like
key.
The simple ones are always the best as well. Like the sound engineering stuff. Yeah, there's like enhanced speech on Adobe where like I filmed a BBC presenter here, and we were in a glass factory because she was making a whole thing about how glass is made. And like literally we can just turn the factory down in the background, and that was amazing. And they have really bad budgets, CBBC. So
we just came back from well, not just, about a month ago, we had our conference, our Women's Connect conference at NAB show, and part of our programming, was panels of speakers and experts in different parts of the industry. And of course, we're going to showcase the work and put sizzles up as we introduce our folks and all of that. So we had a panel that was on virtual production and kind of where that part of the field is going. And come back, we throw it up on YouTube. It was live streamed anyway, all within our rights to use everything. And of course, YouTube was like, oh, you have copyrighted music. You can't use this clip. So it silenced our entire panel. So I said, oh, that stinks. But they're like, hey, we're not flagging you. It's not a strike on your account. And I'm like, okay, cool. Tell me more. They're like, what would you like to do? Do you have permission to use this? Yes, I do. Well, do you want to remove the clip? Do you want it re-edited? Or would you like our AI to analyze it and remove everything but the sound effects, the dialogue, and the ambient noise so that you can still play your clip? And I said, yes, let me try that. So Seth, are you telling me that YouTube owns that video now?
You've given YouTube a license to do a whole bunch of stuff with that video. So functionally, they own it,
it worked,
for
and
their
it was
internal
incredible.
purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
YouTube
Just by
is
posting stuff on
they
YouTube.
have content ID. So they already can read your video. Like that was before that.
Yeah.
They already
So,
knew.
all right. So I did kind of shift. It was just the functionality of what they did. It was like, it wasn't actually instant. It took a couple.
I got to tell you how good those algorithms are. Those algorithms are amazing. I'm a dork. I'm a huge geek, and I stream Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons every now and again, like 3 or 4 times a week. But
wow, really
I had an instance about a year ago where one of the people playing with us was she's an amazing singer, and she sang a couple of lines of a David Bowie song, and we got dinged for that. The algorithm is so good, it could pick up her singing a David Bowie song.
Wow. Yeah, it's gotten good now.
Right. So those algorithms, the AI is astounding at that.
Yeah. It was really bad, incredible. Like in the sense of like 14 years ago where people were claiming royalty-free music, like the person figured out that they could be like pretend like a Final Cut Pro song was theirs, and they would like Jumbo or whatever, and then if you used it, they got the AdSense off your video. It was genius. I mean, complete scam, but genius. Because it knew. You'd be like, oh yeah, I know every video on YouTube with that sound.
So I want to open up to the audience. If you guys have any questions, you can throw them in the chat, or you can start thinking about it. And we'll kind of just bring you on. And Karen, if you don't mind, Karen or Chris, if you're around, can you help me keep an eye on the chat? That would be super helpful. Just let us know when we have a question coming in. But yeah,
Cool.
it's kind of a really good opportunity to ask two folks in the industry, one with a law background who is also a filmmaker and one who is a filmmaker proper. Well, I shouldn't say that. Oh, I take it back, Seth. You're a filmmaker proper too.
You know what? You can call me whatever you want as long as you pay me.
I had a colleague that used to say, as long as you don't call me late for dinner. I'm like, okay, well, that's easy enough. So yeah, just drop your questions in there and we'll pick them up. But
May I ask a
love
question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So like post strikes in America, because they did actually affect Britain really bad. To this day, about 75% of production staff are still out of work because scripts aren't, they're only just coming back into production over here. And we film a lot of American content. And then they've like made their team smaller, introduced AI. Those guys then went into branded and digital, which was my area, Rouge. And now it's like really competitive and hard all the way around. What is the environment? How was that like? I imagine because you have the unions that are much more powerful there. We have some, but they're not as powerful as say like SAG and IATSE and all of this.
Yeah, that's a great question. Seth?
I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I followed the negotiations very closely because they're contracts, right? Like that's one of the things I do for a living is I negotiate these types of contracts. Without going down the rabbit hole on the AI part of it, you know, they got some good concessions. The unions got some good concessions on AI, but not enough. Like they didn't protect voice actors. Okay. So the voice actors are just going to start training these databases. That's a huge thing. Even though the voice actors aren't always a member of SAG-AFTRA, that's going to put a ton of SAG-AFTRA artists out of work. So they failed in that respect. I'm trying to think what else really it was a takeaway for me. It really protects, you know, SAG-AFTRA's biggest art, the biggest people. It doesn't protect the rank and file. You can still end up, you know, going in as an extra and then never needing to be hired again because that extra is going to be put in a billion other things as an extra with AI.
They're actually really good with that here. So like my husband is an actor, but he did some background stuff, particularly around COVID, because like it was literally an industry open in London unless you were working at a shop. So we got bored. He ended up on House of Dragon and they scanned him, and he made sure that in the contract it was only for that pertaining to that episode. Specifically, because I was like, yeah, they could have you otherwise multiple times.
I love how wide this conversation can be, because it's true that AI is really affecting every area of our industry. And yes, it is a hard thing to look at and consider, oh, so many jobs are going away. And yes, we can pivot and everything. But the truth is that this type of dialogue, I think, is what's really important for us to be having in our communities, so that it doesn't blindside wherever you are, whether you're starting out, in the middle, or whether you're kind of just, you know, later on in your career and about to, you know, peace out because you got a good retirement fund or whatever. But it's really important that we as creatives educate ourselves throughout all of this. Like one of the things that I'm taking away personally from all of this, and I think you verbalized what I was already thinking, Seth, is, you know, we are training more on the creative direction side. Because if you sat through Midjourney or DALL-E and tried to kind of get exactly what you needed, how long does it take you to do that, right? Before you get kicked off until the next day, depending on your subscription, right? You know, how many tries, how much training do you have to give your AI before it gives you what you want? Whereas if I was working with a human, we can collaborate.
And the other thing that kills me is, you know, all these people who think they're going to be prompt jockeys, or, you know, my job is going to be doing this. What everyone who is using AI right now is doing is training the next generation of AI so it doesn't need you, the prompter, right? So it's just going to be natural language you speak in, and it'll do whatever you want it to do.
Have you guys seen OpenAI 4.0?
Yeah.
No, but the annoying thing is I just paid for it because I wanted to because actually it's become better than Google since they changed their algorithm.
There's a way to stop that. Tell me later and I can tell you how to turn that off.
All right, let me check the chat for any questions. Or anybody have anything you guys want to ask about? Think about it. Think about the situations that you're in, and think about your clients, think about your departments, your projects. You have Seth here, who's literally an intellectual property lawyer. Very good opportunity.
Can I share my screen?
To bring a specific question. Yeah.
Let me see how I do that. Share screen.
There you go.
We're going to share that screen. All right. So just for shits and giggles for all of us, one of my clients is Kelly McKernan. Okay. So I know Adobe sponsors, but I have to bring this up because it's crazy. There's an August 17 last year post saying, hey, why doesn't Adobe ban artist names from their AI stock? And then the next post is from a couple of months later where Firefly is spitting out images with her signature on it.
Oh, weird.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's been trained on so much of her stuff that it
Yeah.
thinks her signature is supposed to be on the things Firefly is spitting out. And then the other one I wanted to share with you, this is the Getty Images lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. Can you give
Where
a little
is it?
background for those who are not familiar with it?
Oh, well, so you're going to see it right now. Stability AI has been trained on so much Getty Images stock footage, it thinks that logo is supposed to be there. Right? Yeah.
That's funny.
The
So
second
there's
I
just some images I wanted to share with you guys just for fun.
I've been involved in the conversations for years around the ethics of Adobe side. And what's really, I've not been necessarily very nice about it either, but I do respect that they're trying. So, because I don't know many other models that are like actively being like, we're going to train from the Adobe stock. Now we need to make it more obvious to artists that don't want to be trained on that they can switch it off. That is definitely a thing. But they only do train off their own Adobe stock. So
I can tell you for a fact from my clients that that's not true. And every time I walk by the Adobe booth at NAB, I was like, that's not true what you're saying right there. Because I have proof that has been trained on my client stuff. And she's part of the lawsuit against OpenAI right now, Kelly McKernan.
Yeah.
And she is probably, of all the fine artist friends that I have and clients, she's the one on top of this the most. And I guarantee you she did not give Adobe permission to train on her stuff. In another week or so, I'm going to have a class on LinkedIn Learning on AI and how to sort of manage your risk from a creative business standpoint, right? So do those things like put these clauses in your contracts and be aware of certain things.
Great. And that's definitely, before we kind of wrap up the conversation, I did want to kind of ask you, what are those maybe top 2 bits of advice? I know I heard some of it myself, but besides don't use AI, which is growing more and more impossible, I think, as a creative, that's like don't use the internet. At some point it's going to be that ubiquitous. What do you want to leave our audience with? Warnings, or hey, try this tool if you haven't heard of it yet, which I did write down that sound plugin that you shared.
Supertone Clear. I know it's awful. I hate to promo it, but it is so good. It's so good. The biggest thing I want everybody to walk away from this with is there are legal things that never enter your mind as a creative. It's just not a thing you're thinking about, right? 2 things, the big 2 things are making sure that you're not giving something to your client in your contract that you can't actually give them because you used an AI tool, right? And the other thing is, this is a super deep legal thing. Indemnification is that some people are familiar, some people are not, right? It is the process of making somebody whole for a loss. And most contracts you're going to engage in with large media companies are going to have unlimited liability. And you want to make sure your indemnification obligations do not include indemnifying for them for intellectual property infringement because you used AI. Right? So if they get sued, you're paying for their lawyers and their lawsuit and the award if they lose. Right? You don't want to be on the hook for that.
Yeah.
So
wow. Thank you. That's valuable information. You guys heard it. Be careful. Hire a lawyer.
Oh, and don't let your deliverable be trained. Be used to train another database.
That's a big one for me. I'm like, I don't put scripts through it. I don't put anything that's like a full concept. I might be like, man and woman in bar having a drink, like big enough so that I can, and I'll be like, I might describe the woman, like, or what the guy looks like. Like,
okay, and so you were saying, Mandy, that your favorite tool was on the Adobe Firefly side, actually, so that you don't have to paint, basically, right? So what are some of the things that you want to leave our audience with in your for their wheelhouse?
The thing is like they're being built into our NLEs. Like, this isn't just an Adobe thing. Final Cut is doing it. DaVinci is doing it. They're all doing it. If you're using a transcription tool, you're using an AI tool. If you're using like anything that like can make coloring easier, you're probably using an AI tool. If you're using something that can detect cuts in your video, it's probably an AI tool. If you're using a transition that helps hide the cut, it's probably an AI tool. So like, I think like, especially with editors, they need to, I've been seeing it a lot recently, like you kind of need to get on board in the same way. Like I had a conversation with an editor a couple of years back and she was like, I can only edit 9 minutes of footage a day. And I was like, excuse me, we work in digital. That's not going to work. And then I realized she came from the really like the British TV world, where editors are only expected to do a scene, which is usually like 6 to 9 minutes a day, and they just make that look really good. And they just finesse that instead of actually just cutting a vlog together. And I like, people get left behind because they want to stay towards an older way of doing things. And I'm like, you should still look at it in the same way like the generation above us needed to learn how to open a PDF, like and that could use a hard drive. I feel like you need to like keep on top of it, at least read about it. Like streaming tools are AI tools these days. Things to like review software, like review your cuts, a lot of them use AI in some capacity. So I think like you've just got to kind of, if you want to stay in the industry as a long term, keep an eye on it, use the ones that apply to your own ethics as well. Like hopefully you have good ethics.
I've got one that I would love to see, right? So I don't know, you tell me if this would be useful for you. And I've discussed this with some other producers and directors and editors. An AI plugin that will look at your entire project beginning to end and tell you if you've got any IP in there that shouldn't be, like somebody with a Nike logo on their shirt, or there's some music in the background that's basically an IP check that's an AI tool.
Yeah,
but working
I'm really excited for
right.
There's going to be Gen AI within video within the year. Like it's already out there, but I mean into softwares. I know Adobe just did a whole sneaks video on their like add diamonds to the suitcase or whatever. My favorite thing is masking tools. Things to be like, remove this sign and it's like an exit sign or a toilet sign you don't want in the background. Like that stuff.
Those are
love
magic.
That. Like that's genuinely useful. I think that's going to be my favorite. That will be built into Premiere and it'll be in every NLE by the end of the year probably. But
it's even
that kind of thing I'm excited about.
Carry that kind of thing too. Yeah. Okay, we have a question that's from the audience. And Mandy, thank you, because what I heard you say was educate yourself, know what you're working with, and align yourself with the ethics of that tool, which I think is a really powerful message as well. Thank you for that. Wonderful wrap up. Karen, what I'd like to do briefly is take this question and then close out, but I'd love to kind of go into community mode so we can see everybody up here. So any insights real quick on, any insight on upcoming updates from Adobe or AI tools that we should be looking out for? I think we kind of just covered that.
I mean, I can only talk about a few of them as well. So like if I'm in conversation, some of them are early. But the ones that they did just release are the Gen AI ones that they're doing. They're now like going to integrate things like Sora, but you don't have to use them. And like, okay. Photoshop, it's like Gen AI there that's coming in to play. Lightroom, it's a lot of masking stuff, which is great. Those are the ones I am personally very excited for, and I am excited for like when I work with a corporate client that doesn't want a colorist, that some color things might come in. Those things are really exciting to me.
And on that note, thank you to everyone. I just want to encourage you to follow us and join us in person one time. We're usually at NAB New York, we're at IBC, we're at Infocom, and we're also at NAB in Las Vegas every year. So